So if you were an aspiring developer, but 99% of the time when you're learning how to code, you feel like this, then perhaps the craft of coding is not for you. Or you just may have failed to understand how to induce the state of flow, which apparently causes coders to be really happy people. Welcome back, XD Crowd. My name is Jason. Today we talk flow. You see, when those interviews fell through last week, I went over the library of interviews that I have and tried to find segments that have not previously been published that you might find valuable. And one of my favorite interviews was with Miguel De Icaza, one of the pioneers of the open source movement way back from the late 90s. He's now one of the co-founders and CTO of Xamarin. You can check out the original interview I did with him called Become a Mono Ninja. And there's this segment where he speaks really about this magic state of flow. It's about trying to strike this balance between love of your craft and what you do and focus. And that this state can bring about almost ecstasy. It's pretty crazy. Here it is.
I lived in Mexico, and they used to have these Commodore 64s in these islands in the middle of the store. They started selling Commodore 64s, and they had these islands with 4 or 6 computers, and you could go and play some games or type some stuff. And I went there enough. I mean, every time I went to the store, I would go there. I guess my father at some point figured we should get him one of those. And he taught me the first steps of programming. And I remember him teaching me about if statements. I was probably 14 at the time, or 13 maybe. And he was teaching me if statements. And I immediately thought, oh, this is how password systems in the movies are built. Right? It's like, oh, it's an if statement that makes a password. Just being able to control the machine was to me very interesting. I guess that's how it started. And what happens, I think, with computing and with like any other hobbies, you end up in this mental state, which now I guess psychologists have studied to death. But you end up in this mental state where if you end up in this little triangle, in which you have a perfect match of your skill and the challenge that you're trying to do, you're in this state called flow, which is the essence of happiness. So flow kind of forces you, as you become better, it forces you to raise the bar for the challenge. So it forces you to learn, and on the other hand, if the challenge is too big, it forces you to develop your skills better. So I guess once you fall in the state of flow, anybody can really do anything. And I guess for me, it was computers, and it was just fascinating to keep learning and keep getting better at doing a particular task. So it's just very enjoyable. It's just been very enjoyable, but I think that the same phenomenon happens with pretty much any profession. It just happens that I got it with programming. Mm-hmm. And it's also very rewarding, of course. So there's that.
Now, when I tried to do more reading about software developers and the state of flow, I found a great blog post from SciProgrammer. You can go to SciProgrammer.com. The link to that great article is below. It was considered one of the top 30 blog posts in the whole industry for 2013. Really, really good. He goes into quite a bit of detail about it, and he talks about the methods that you can use to induce a state of flow on a regular basis, rather than just having to rely on it happening by chance. And the first two things were kind of obvious, right? It was competence. You need a basic ability to do the task that you're setting out to do, and you need self-confidence. Pretty self-evident. But the third one was direction. So this is sufficiently defining your task. So there's a clear beginning and an end, a measurable end, right? So when you're done, you can measure your degree of success and what you accomplish. It's not just some endless project that never really comes to fruition. Fourth was the ability to concentrate. That's a really big one for me. On my browser, I have if you go into the Chrome Web Store, there's a plugin that goes right onto your browser and allows you to control where you can go. So I block out social networks like Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, so I can't go to them. I can just focus and not be distracted. that's a really big help for me. And you can set up timers. So until like 2:30 in the afternoon before my kids get home, I cannot, enter these websites. I have to work. That's a big help for me. And the fifth was serenity, or the absence of worries. And for those of you who are adults in the audience, you know that that's probably not very realistic. But what is realistic is having the maturity and discipline to set those stress and anxieties aside so you can focus, and that takes some mental discipline and effort. But I think I have experienced moments of the state of flow, and it is really something. Check out the book. It claims to be the secret of happiness, and I think there's a reasonable case for it. Good luck, you guys. I will see you next week. We have some happy and sad news. Next week will be my last 2 shows here at XDA. We will be moving on. And so I'm really going to try and land those interviews with you, because this is my last chance. If there's any other requests that I could do as a backup option in case those interviews fall through yet again, I will consider those. Thanks, guys. You've been great. Have a good week.